It is time for I almost said Seasons of STYX. Wow. Ooh, I'm tired. Stories from STYX, Volume 2, The Visuals. And for those who are still wondering, I am going to release the Odyssey video. I have edited about half of the raw footage, so like 90 minutes, when I tell you this was a long as hell nerdy yap session about shit that I noticed in the movie. So it's really less a review and more of a let's just nerd out over things I saw in this film. Unfortunately, my ability to work on that edit, which is already humongous compared to almost all of my usual things that I make, even though, yes, some of those have been humongous as well, it's taking a while. I'm not, like, willfully procrastinating, it just kind of keeps getting pushed back, but we are here for Achilles' Lullaby, the Lullaby of Achilles. Which I should note, yes, Achilles is closer to the transliteration of his name, so if like you look at the Greek, and that's because his name comes from two root words. Let's get nerdy, let's do a little education, because I don't think I've talked about this outside of book club. So the two Greek words that are kind of the roots of his name are achos and laos. Achos meaning like pain, sadness, and Laos meaning people. It's the same for like Menelaos, like anytime you say Laos in the name, it's likely something of the people, is if you want to break down the origin name. So Achos Laos, Achilles' name essentially translates to he who brings grief or pain or sorrow, really, I guess that's the best word, sorrow. He who brings sorrow to people. Or it could be he who receives sorrow from the people. But most people say he who brings sorrow to people. He who brings pain to people, which... yeah, that kind of sums up Achilles in the Iliad. Let's be real. He, for 99% of the story, he is not a help. He is everybody's problem. He gets mad and makes it everybody's problem. Anywho, it's time for his lullaby, Thetis, for visuals. I've been told I need to sit down. I am standing, but I am now concerned, intrigued, mildly worried for my health if I've been told to sit down. And also I have Mordred's Lullaby just like on loop in my head now. I can't help it. I hear Lullaby and it's either the Prince of Egypt Lullaby, which of course is beautiful because Prince of Egypt is a brilliant animated film. But then Mordred's Lullaby, again, this song, by the way, yeah, is old, okay? It's from like 2000. If you have not had the chance, anyone watching, to have gone and listened to this song, it's by Heather Dale. It's Mordred's Lullaby. It is beautiful and haunting. Anyway, sorry, ooh, we're getting distracted. Again, can we tell I am tired? My ADHD meds have worn off. Achilles' Lullaby, let's go. I'm just now actually looking at the title, which I think has been updated, or did I just not pay attention before? Because it says Achilles' Lullaby, stories from STYX official animatic, Lydia the Bard, who I know is the singer. Smulio? Is this like all Smulio? Because I remember for Volume 1, it was multiple artists who would contribute art to the videos, which was really cool. So, okay, look. Smulio, am I gonna have to, like, as I say, with all love and respect, yell at you because of how good your art is? Yes, I am. It's fine. We're great. I probably should have been sitting down. This is fine. This is fine. I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna regret standing, aren't I?
Not every union twixt daemon and man ascends beyond violence or kings grasping hands. And
is this all Smulio? So Smulio, is this Smulio in color too?
And Achilles, a babe blessed by
Chiron. The idea of Chiron, like with his rib cage show. Ooh, that's a look. And twisted. And is this really Smulio in full color? I should have been sitting. I'm leaning against my bookcase for support now.
As I carry you here by the heel, you were fated to ward off our terror.
Ooh, interesting. We're giving Achilles, little baby Achilles, his kind of brown hair. Now, again, we know that there aren't really words that describe colors in terms of hues, but I believe Achilles is often described, like his hair color is clearly, there's a word that's used, it kind of means like shining or bright, and it was, a lot of people interpreted it as meaning like kind of golden haired, which, you know, is kind of distinguishing to him. I mean, there's some other characters who are described with like bright golden, you know, or bright hair, or you get some where it's like Menelaus, where it's clearly interpreting a kind of like red auburn kind of color. So yep, Menelaus, who's again the Laos in the name, the Menis. His name literally means wrath of the people, which is like, goddamn. Honestly, you're gonna have a name that breaks down to something cool. Menelaus wins with wrath of the people. Like, it's delicious. But okay, we have a little brown-haired baby Achilles. This is a cool little chubby baby, adorable little chubby baby. But I want to see more of Thetis's outfit.
Every soldier and peasant will kneel.
Her eyes, the color's fascinating.
Achilles, and they will remember.
Oh, there he is. Okay. Oh my God. It's Chiron. It's Chiron. The centaur. Okay, we need to talk about this. Okay. So Smilia, I will give you a pass for this, Vildy, because I'm actually almost glad you didn't go with the historical interpretation of what Chiron looks like. If you look up ancient art for what Chiron looks like, it's fucking cursed imagery, okay? It is literally like if you took a man, just took a man, including his bottom half, and then stuck a horse, like, back end behind it. It's the most cursed fucking image you will see. And it is clearly meant to distinguish him as different from the other centaurs. Because centaurs in general are these very kind of almost feral kind of creatures, we'll say. They are very wild, they're very lusty, they are they cause problems most of the time. There's very famously the Cantaromachia, which is this war with the centaurs that happens because of idiot Pirithous' wedding. It's ironically not Pirithous' fault. The centaurs just like crash it and start kidnapping all the women and the young boys and girls, and it's like, what the fuck, guys? But Chiron is not necessarily of the same race. He has a different parentage. He does not exhibit any of those kind of negative traits that are associated with literally every other centaur in myth. And why he tends to, there are some heroes or children of heroes or other people who, children usually of gods in some way, who he takes and he trains in often like healing related arts and herbs. Pharmakaon is the word, so like where we get the word pharmacy. Pharmakaon, these herbs, including like Asclepios, the sons of Asclepios who are there at Troy, have pharmakaon that they got from Chiron. Achilles goes and learns there, and it's stuff that he then can kind of like, which, I mean, it's just useful information to have. Like, you're not learning to be like a battlefield medic or anything like that. No, wasn't a thing in the Homeric epics. But like, you at least learn how, if you get hurt, you can patch yourself up, or you can patch somebody else up. Because obviously risk of infection, number one. Like, listen to most horror stories of stuff like the American Civil War and stuff, and it's like, dude, most of them are just dying of fucking infection. So, you know, this is useful information to have, but I will actually deeply appreciate that we did not go with the cursed imagery. I'm actually very okay with that, because I don't know if I could have taken it. I would have needed to sit down. I really, truly say, if you want to know why I'm sort of just laughing so hard, go and look it up yourself. It is such cursed imagery. It just looks so wrong. Ooh, very nice. Okay, no, wait, go back. There's someone there with him. Which I loved. I love a lot of these are still shots. I just think it allows you to do storytelling so well. So we have Achilles. There's somebody sitting next to him. Am I meant to assume that is Patroclus? From what we are made to understand, Patroclus does not train with him, with Chiron. Because Patroclus does not show up until after Achilles has already received that knowledge. So Patroclus is not there. So I'm assuming this is meant to be Patroclus, but generally in myth, he's not there. Now, a lot of this later stuff with Achilles and Patroclus, especially involving Chiron, or it looked like the next scene involved them on the island of Skyros. While there is certainly some kind of mythic tradition for parts of it, a lot of the most detailed stuff we get comes to us. Again, we talked about this in the first time I listened to Achilles' Lullaby. This is coming to us from Statius, who was a Roman poet, was a Latin poet. There's a lot of stuff that he writes that does not seem to have a Greek mythic tradition. Obviously, number one being the whole you're, invulnerable, invincible save for your heel, the dipping in the river Styx, like all of that. There's no tradition of it prior to Statius. We have nothing. No hint of it. Like, it's not even in art. We don't have it. Unlike, as I said, with Eros and Psyche, we have art depicting that story prior to the Roman writer who writes the Golden Ass, because I can never remember who that writer is. So okay, that has a mythic tradition. With a lot of the stuff people say they know about Achilles, a lot of it has no mythic tradition prior to Rome entering the chat. And it's not like a case of Hyginus, who was an ethnic Greek, though he wrote in Latin, and who made it pretty clear he's writing about the Greek mythology. Again, even though he's writing in Latin. Someone like Statius, he's Roman, or like he would say he's Roman, he's Italian, he's not writing about the Greek mythology. And I think a lot of what he does with Achilles is sort of meant to boost Achilles' image as a hero, because it then makes it so much more impressive that he got killed by a Trojan with Apollo's help. Unfortunately, that Trojan is Paris, who is the worst. Oh my god, you can dislike, so many of the characters in the Iliad are kind of unlikable. Look, Achilles is immensely unlikable in the Iliad. I don't actually think you are supposed to like him. For 23 of the 24, the first 23 books, you're not supposed to like him. I truly think you're only meant to like him the moment he actually gives over Hector's body to Priam. I think that's the only moment where you're supposed to maybe like him a bit. Beyond that, no. I want to bitch slap Achilles. You have no idea how much I want to bitch slap Achilles in that poem. He frustrates me, he irritates me, but I do think that's part of the point. It's part of the commentary that the Iliad is making. But Paris, nobody likes Paris, okay? Nobody likes Paris. Helen rips him a new asshole verbally every time she sees him. She emasculates him about his physicality, then she emasculates him in the form of you have no morals and no ethics, and she rips him a new one. And Hector completely rightfully gives him shit. I don't think Priam likes him all that much. Nobody likes Paris. And even Virgil, okay, with the Aeneid, which, as I like to say, is the Roman propaganda version of the events, because it's so staunchly anti-Greek. It really does have an agenda, such a clear agenda in what it's doing and how it's portraying the two sides of the conflict. Even he was not nice about Paris. Granted, as I said, with Rome, it's wow, you're racism. It's just showing. Again, okay, the ancient Greeks were super ethnocentric and definitely had some views later as you get further and further into the classical and the post-classical age that were definitely buddy, that's a bit much. What do you do? Stop it. Rome just did not give a shit and was just straight out fucking racist to everyone who wasn't Roman. That includes the Greeks, by the way, even though they basically borrowed a whole bunch of their culture. They were Greece. Oh, the trouble with Greece is that it's full of Greeks and we can't stand them. No, but to them, Paris represented the Easterner, which meant he was the effeminate, the weak Easterner, which is just Rome. I don't like Paris either, but that's not the attitude we should be taking. We should not like him for deeply specific reasons, and that's not one of them. Anyway, sorry. Yes, most of what people think they know about Achilles comes from Rome. It does not actually come from Greece. And again, if I'm assuming this is meant to be Patroclus, from what I remember, and I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, it will be here in subtitles saying, mad you dipshit. This was actually in Statius, because it's likely all coming from Statius. He was not there when Achilles went and learned from Chiron. Because after Patroclus kills his friend, and he gets exiled from his home, he is then sent to Phthia, because obviously King Peleus is his uncle, Achilles is his cousin. You send him off to a relative. It's not the first or the last time that happened. Which actually also, both he and Achilles are also cousins of Telamone and Ajax. Yeah, they're all fucking related somehow. But those guys, yeah, they're all cousins. Which also does make them half cousins of Teucer, of Teucer. Because Teucer is obviously Telamone and Ajax's bastard half-brother. Teucer then also technically being related to the royal house of Troy because his mother is Priam's sister. Their family trees are all a fucking mess. Anyway. Okay, yeah. Is this Odysseus? Why does your Odysseus feel more smashable than the last time I saw him? Because, I mean, that's not bad. I want a bit more beard, but like, I could. I'm just saying. I wouldn't say no. You also draw my men with heft. So I absolutely will never say no. They have meat on their bones. They look like they have, muscles that have come from having to have worked out. And like, not showy muscles. Like, not stuff that's just there for show. Like, actual functional musculature. Which I think is the big thing to remember. Like, these guys aren't like bodybuilders who have just like stuff to look pretty or whatever. It's all functional to them. Function, form, all of that. So this has to be the infamous moment on Skyros, where Achilles was sent, I believe, by Thetis. I think she kind of snuck around Peleus' back and sent him there because, again, makes the great irony of this song. Sends him to Skyros. He's hanging out there. Hiding, and he's young enough and apparently is, we'll say, almost fair enough that he can apparently, how reasonable was it? We don't know, but reasonable enough he can pass as a woman, which also means that he's young enough that he has not started growing in facial hair, which does denote him as young compared to these other men, these heroes, these kings and warriors who go on the expedition to Troy. He is dressed as a woman. I mean, he has also married one of the king's daughters. They have clearly already bumped uglies, and Neoptolemus is in the world. But he's hiding amongst the women dressed as a woman. Odysseus comes, and Odysseus being the sly fucker that he is. We love him. We love him for being so sly. He presents a bunch of gifts, because he's like, I am a guest, I'm traveling, I've brought stuff. Always gotta bring stuff. Mostly beautiful fine garments and fabric and stuff for the women, because obviously women, especially of rank, are often seen doing weaving in the Homeric epics. But in there is, I believe, it's a sword or it's a spear, it's weaponry. Which of course catches Achilles' eye because he's a man, and that's of course what he's interested in. And of course none of the women are interested because they are not men. They don't do that. There were gender roles, and that's how Achilles kind of gives himself away, which I'm just sort of like, this twat was going to Troy, who are we kidding? But I love the expressions. And again, I feel like your Odysseus feels way more smashable than the Odysseus I am remembering from Puppeteer. It was Puppeteer. Yes, you did Puppeteer. Yours was Puppeteer. Yes, because of the body horror of the transformation, which the only person who has truly beat you on that has now become Christopher Nolan, because I don't want to talk about it. But yes. What up, Odysseus? Also, love that they're all kind of tanned. They're swarthy. They got that good Mediterranean, the Greek look. Oh, whoa. Look at this armor. Beautiful Bronze Age inspiration on that armor. Gorgeous. I see the tusks. I like that it's very shiny and gold. I mean, obviously he's going to get even more beautiful, bedecked, bedazzled, Hephaestus bespoke armor and shield and all of that after Patroclus dies. But ooh, love that. Also love to see the tuft, the crest flowing behind. Looks gorgeous. I'm assuming this is either us sailing towards Troy or away from Skyros. I don't know which. Because obviously the campaign towards Troy, they're kind of like sailing along the coast on the way to Troy, and they're like raiding cities all the way up until they hit Troy. Which is talked about mostly in the lost epics that would be, like timeline-wise of the story before the Iliad. But they do get referenced in the Iliad because it's how you find out about Chryseis and Briseis and then where they've come from. And also that Andromache's home city that was sacked as part of this whole campaign down to Troy. So it's not just that like they only sailed straight to Troy and like didn't pit stop and side quest along the way. Oh, hell no, they side quested the whole way to Troy. They were sacking and raiding all the way, I mean, like 23 cities, essentially, on the way to Troy, because it's noted that Achilles has sacked 23 cities. And I'm like, yeah, in the expedition to Troy, because prior to Troy, he hadn't done shit. Love pointing that out. I'm like, his resume is empty before Troy. Everybody else has at least something on their resume. He's got nothing. I will also note, I just realized that if that's supposed to be him and Patroclus, that can't have been Patroclus, because Patroclus is older than Achilles. He's pretty reasonably older than Achilles, to the point that he's often listed as one of the suitors for Helen. I mean, he's essentially kind of having to be beholden to a guy who's quite younger than him. And they looked too close in age, the two kids who were there with Chiron. So I'm assuming that has to be Patroclus, but like, let's remember that Patroclus was, I mean, noticeably older than Achilles. And that's because Achilles is, again, so noticeably young.
Stepping onto the beach.
Ooh, nice transition. Oh my god, stop. Do we see this armor? Do we see this? This is shit out of a fucking Peter Connolly book. The late, great Peter Connolly, who I always sing the praises of, he was a historical illustrator, and he's frankly, if you want to see modern art that's period accurate for the Bronze Age, which again is technically when this is taking place, though we all make the joke that the Odyssey and the Iliad are 3 different historical ages wrapped in a trench coat. That aside, technically the Bronze Age. If you want really, and the really good books with Peter Connolly's art in it will also show you the references, the archaeological evidence that he worked with to do illustrations for stuff like the world of the Odyssey and of the Iliad and of Greek myth. Like, this is shit straight out of Peter Connolly. It's gorgeous, and I love turning people to his art, because it's also just great art, but you get all the historically accurate details. I mean, this is amazing. Oh, and look at him getting the spear right in the chest. And those, obviously, who come to Iliad Book Club, we've done books 5 and 6. We've done books 4, 5, and 6. We just recently did book 6. We've gotten descriptions of what metal does to flesh, and also what rocks do to flesh, because in case you didn't know, Aeneas does show up in the Iliad, and he has massive plot armor in the Iliad, but Diomedes at one point picks up a boulder that apparently nobody should be able to pick. It should take 2 men to pick up, but of course Diomedes is in his moment of Adisteia. He just picks it up. He chucks it at Aeneas, and it gets him right in the hip. It basically shatters his hip. But I know, but you get a lot of descriptions of, frankly, what happens when spears go through metal and go through flesh, and it is unflinching, really. It never feels gratuitous. Like, it's not a gore fest that's being done for the sake of being a gore fest, but it's just like, this is war. It's ugly. And it's brutal, but there's a kind of matter-of-factness to it. Even amidst the poetry. But this is great. I also love that all of the armor is not uniform. A lot of the pieces are very similar, but there's little details amongst all of it to kind of individualize everybody. Because again, this is not the Roman military. Being a soldier is actually not a job description. Like, there's no standing army. These are all citizen soldiers. It's BYOB, bring your own bronze, right? So it's also part of why you see so much looting happening on the battlefield. Half the time people die when they're trying to strip armor off of dead bodies. Let's be real, because hey, that guy might have better armor than you. Grab it if you can. And, trade it, or, do whatever. And also, it's teammates, it's this physical stuff that represents things that you did and your chaos and everything else. But also then the short skirts. There's a delightful amount of thigh action happening. The shields, I love that I'm seeing there's 2 people with swords, but everybody else has spears. We usually are told that the Greek warriors have 2 spears. I don't know, 1 for each hand. They will have a sword. But that's essentially like your tertiary weapon when you're out of your 2 spears, basically. Oh, this is so good. This is beautiful. I love the amount of like, Smulio, I'm never in doubt of your talent, ever. Never in doubt. I love seeing the references that have clearly been pulled. It's beautiful. It looks great. What I also like is you see these guys moving, and it gives you a real sense of how strong they had to be to move in this armor, because Greek warfare, even going all the way in through the classical age, like you read the descriptions of like the Battle of Marathon in the First Greco-Persian War, And how the reason, besides the fact that the Greeks were able to essentially remove the ability of the Persians to use their cavalry, which was really their big asset. The Greeks were able to make it so they kind of couldn't maneuver with the cavalry. But the reason the Greeks were doing better than Trojans because they just had heavier armor. They were very much a heavy armored infantry. It was always their type of warfare. I mean, you then get into stuff like the phalanx and stuff. And the armor ain't exactly light. It's gonna be heavy. It's multiple pieces. So you had the fact that Achilles is known as quick, as swift-footed Achilles, the fact that he could be agile and move so swiftly in armor that heavy when he would be wearing all the pieces that make up like the armor of the Homeric hero is fucking impressive. Tells you how strong he was as well, because it's not exactly stuff that's designed for you to be super agile. That wasn't really the tactic. So we do see that they're moving, but it still looks like it's kind of heavy. Like, you can only move so much. There's a lot of brute strength going on. And I just, this image is my everything. This image right here, I don't even care. Until some other image dethrones it, this is my favorite image in this whole thing. I love it. Ooh, nice close up. Oh. Are these other kings? Are these the other kings? Are these, the other kings. The actual kings, because Achilles is not a king. Love that forever. I'm guessing, if I had to guess, obviously I'm assuming Odysseus. He looks familiar. Nestor, because he looks older. And these two, I'm assuming maybe are Menelaus and Agamemnon? Or is that meant to be Agamemnon? He just looks older than the rest of them, so I want to say it's Nestor. But then I want to say it's Agamemnon because he's got the gold piece, and he is, after all, he's the Anaxandron, the lord of men, the king of men, the only guy who gets called the Anax, which means, like, king. Everybody else is called the Basileos, which technically we translate as king, and later on in the classical age it does seem to mean king, but, like, in the context of this, kings but on a lower level. So I'm like, is that Nestor or Menelaus? I mean, not Menelaus or Agamemnon. Help! Is that Nestor or Agamemnon? This is important to me. Because beyond that, I'm just going to assume these two are Agamemnon and Menelaus because they have reasonably similar hair colors. And they're siblings, after all. So why are your men all so hot? This is a full line of smash. Smash, 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 smash. Okay. Sorry, I'll let it keep going. Definitely Achilles and Patroclus. Okay, so I'm assuming this has got to be Patroclus. He's kind of the only comrade that Achilles really has is Patroclus. It's not that unusual. Like, we get essentially a mini version of what's going to happen to a degree with Achilles and Patroclus in Book 4 of the Iliad, where Odysseus has a buddy, a comrade, and I can't remember the word for it, but there is a word for it. And his buddy is killed, and Odysseus gets so pissed off about it, he then kills a Trojan, and it's such a violent kill shot that it freaks out the rest of the Trojans. In the same way that upon the death of Patroclus, Achilles is gonna go into deep ego death and not be able to handle it and scare a shit ton of the Trojans. I mean, granted, also time he scares the shit out of the Trojans in Book 5, which can you blame them? That man turns into a one-man wrecking ball army, and it's glorious. Again, I'm assuming this is meant to be Patroclus. I do appreciate that he is bearded. Now, depending on when this is meant to be in the war, because this could be before, like, the events of the Iliad. Like, year 1 of the war, maybe. Then, sure, he'd be bearded and Achilles wouldn't be. But there is a point where Achilles is gonna get a beard. He's gonna get facial hair. But yes, so that's Patroclus' discussing. He does look older than Achilles, which again, I appreciate. When they were kids, if again that was meant to be Patroclus, I really didn't see the age difference. This, I kind of see it. It could just be the effect of the facial hair, but again, Patroclus is older. Aw, buddies. That's so interesting. Lions made when Hector is slain. I kind of actually wish I was... Okay. I know we're doing the death of Patroclus and whole, but... And Smulio... I'm gonna say this is not a criticism. This is just what I would prefer, just given the lyrics. I would rather have him sitting over the body of Hector, like, and having that emotional moment. I will say, again, the movie Troy has so many fucking problems. Don't even get me started on all the problems with that movie. But the scene in that film with Priam coming to beg for Hector's body, and then Achilles goes and he starts wrapping up essentially Hector's battered, desecrated corpse. And he starts breaking down over it. I actually thought that whole sequence was done beautifully. It's one of the best parts of the movie. It's one of the parts of the movie where I go, yes! You at least didn't fuck that up. I mean, granted, you had Peter O'Toole. If it had gotten fucked up with Peter O'Toole, I would say that script is beyond saving. In many ways it is, but that moment is nice, and that bit. So just for the lyrics, I wish this were him with Hector. But I get how we're seeing the progression of Achilles through the war, and by this point, he should have a beard by this point. It's year 9, he should have a beard. But yes, the deep ego death that's happening with Patroclus's death, which is really because Patroclus goes out and functions as a proxy of Achilles, and not just of Achilles, but Achilles' reputation and his glory and his honor. So when he dies, to Achilles it's like, wait, but then Hector's gonna say, if he's functioning essentially as me, if he is me out there, then Hector just slew me. He just slew the best of the Greeks. Whoa, 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 whoa. No, my ego, which has been throwing a temper tantrum this whole story, cannot take that. That's a blow too far. This is a physical blow. I must kill Hector. Like, that's why he turns into such a psychotic berserker. And a lot of the Iliad does explore the idea of that obsessive quest for Kleos, and when it becomes essentially hubristic, when it is in excess, which Achilles is his rage, his wrath, which of course gets divine boosting because mommy calls Zeus. That is the quest for Kleos in excess. And it's why he goes way too far, and he has to try and return to humanity. But of course, by that point, it's essentially too late because he's doomed himself. So even though he does return to humanity, he gives up the body to Hector. I think it's the fact that he's already desecrated Hector's corpse. He knows his fate. It's coming. Like, he's gonna die very soon after that. But, okay, yeah. That's enough having in that, yes. I understand how we're seeing the through line. We have to at least tackle the death of Patroclus. But because it's the line about Hector, I almost wish I would see that. But maybe it's a good thing I'm not. I'd probably get emotional. Oh, new armor. Okay. Yes, that's a good detail. See, he's got new armor. He's got that bespoke Hephaestus armor, and though I don't see the shield. Kind of wish I saw the shield, but I also don't blame you, Smulio, for not doing the shield, because look, for those who don't know, if you thought the catalog of ships is bad, which it is, it's only second to the catalog of ships, is the description of Achilles' shield. The amount of time Homer spends describing this shield that Hephaestus makes for Achilles and how obscenely decorative and important all the imagery is, it's fucking stupid. So I actually don't blame you for not showing the shield, because that would be so much work you didn't need to put into that. But we also see that Hector is wearing the armor that he essentially stripped from Patroclus that had been Achilles' armor, which again is also part of that ego blow to Achilles. So part of killing Hector is he's taking this armor back. He's gonna almost raffle it off, give it away as prizes during Patroclus's funeral games. But ooh, okay. I just want to see Hector's face, because we love Hector. Hector, like almost all the Greek heroes in the story of the Iliad, is also obsessively chasing Kleos, kind of to excess. Is sort of what is the thing that's leading to his death knell in a way. We talked about this in book 6 recently because we have a beautiful scene between him and his wife, but he gives this speech to his wife, which is beautiful, but you're also just like, and it's still about you and your glory. Look, we get it. It's the ethos of the hero. They would not view this as weird, but it is, for all these heroes, pushing to a level of excess, which makes the Iliad so kind of violent. I mean, besides the obvious thing that it's a martial epic, but there we go. Ooh, okay. Ooh. Oh, yep, got him right in the throat. That is how Hector goes. Granted, not before, with a spear in his throat, giving a few dying words to Achilles. It's an epic. What do you want? We don't really actually show off to this thing for the battle tactics. Look, the Iliad is not going to give you any way accurate account of what combat was like in the Bronze Age. It wouldn't even show you what combat is like in the Archaic Age or the Dark Age, because, one, the chariots are essentially glorified taxi cabs. That's all they do. Heroes hop on them, drive to the battle, and hop off. They are glorified taxi cabs, number one. Number two, I'm pretty sure that the way these guys engaged in combat was not taking your taxi chariot up, hopping out, giving a grand speech, and then engaging in a essentially one-on-one duel in the middle of the battlefield. Pretty sure that's not how it was going. But everybody who listens to Homer or reads Homer understands that's the poetry, that's the poetic effect. But then when you get into, again, the descriptions of kind of the melees, the sort of chain reactions of people killing people in there, just the descriptions, again, of what metal does rend onto flesh, like what happens there. Because so many men, especially in ancient Greece, would have understood what it meant to have fought, because again, they're all citizen soldiers. You all, if you were physically able, would participate in defense or attack or whatever have you. They would all recognize that. Ah, the walls of... Whoa! What? Oh, okay. I was like, those walls ain't opening.
Hades, bear witness. I beg these waters bless him. Let the river of souls shield him. No
Love the
arrow,
lighting.
no weapon, no man.
That's Paris.
No God
Ooh, with
shall
Apollo.
hurt my boy. Protect
Yep.
him, please.
Yep, that'll do it.
My son.
Ooh, not a 360 spin shot. Wow. His funeral pyre. Yep. Which is one of the big signals you can tell that this is, many historical ages in a trench coat, is the use of those pyres. Because we know, archaeological evidence now at least, we know that in the Bronze Age they buried their dead. They had these incredible, I think they're called shaft tombs. There's even some that are almost like honeycomb-like structures. It does seem in the Bronze Age, at least for those of importance and rank, it would seem at least, as found by digs at the Palace at Mycenae, we know that they buried their dead. Obviously, by the time Homer's writing stuff down, that folk memory has kind of vanished. Likely because, again, we know more about what we call the Mycenaean era, about late kind of Bronze Age Greece, than the actual ancient Greeks did. That Dark Age really did just wipe so much from their memories. It's a little ridiculous, actually, and still wild to think about. That was beautiful. I spent most of my time leaning up against the bookcase for steadiness because Shmulier, what the fuck? That was amazing. Did not expect to get that beautifully accurate Bronze Age armor. Look, Shmulier, I'm going to talk to you as if you're here. I adore your work. I love your character designs. I love, the way that these people feel very grounded, like they're in a world that they're participating in, that they've got some heft, they've got some meat on their bones. I appreciate your expressions. I mean, again, your anatomy is insane. Just well done. And all the little Easter eggs and things that are in there. Just, well done. Glorious, brilliant, love it, beautiful. Mwah. Chef's kiss.